You are now listening to Black Coffee, Crime, and Crochet, a true crime podcast where cozy meets criminal, hosted by Jasmine C.L. Prince. Grab your yarn, pour up an iced coffee, let's sit through the chaos.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Black Coffee, Crime, and Crochet, where we unravel scandals one stitch and one sip at a time. I am your girl, your host, Jasmine C.L. Prince, your iced coffee enthusiast, crochet queen, and your guide through crimes that make you clutch your cup just a little bit tighter. So this month we have been in our Scandal in the Schools series. This episode will be the series finale. In November, we will start a new series. But it has been a wild ride. We have talked about shady principals in Detroit, bribery in Atlanta, and school scams in Chicago. But today I wanted to do something different. We are tackling our first international case. Because while some folks are finessing budgets in boardrooms, others are running exam rings like it's an academic underground economy. And this one, y'all, it's super layered. A regional exam leak, a literal heist involving fireproof cabinets, hundreds of thousands of students' futures on the line. So pour up your coffee, your drink, whatever it is you got, and get comfy. I'm comfy right now because we are heading to Jamaica, where the Caribbean's most trusted test turned into their biggest scandal. Before we do that, though, know we got our segments. So, iced coffee of the week is real simple. Today, I'm sipping on a Caribbean caramel breeze, just cold brew, coconut milk, and a pump or however much you want of caramel syrup, and then dusted with cinnamon. Simple, sweet, smooth, and a little dangerous. So that is the iced coffee crochet. I don't have an update for y'all this week. Yeah, I'm still working on my husband's polo. Still working on that turtleneck in between, but I don't have anything new. So that's the crochet spotlight. I'll probably post the turtleneck link again just in case y'all missed it from last week. But yeah, that's it. So it's real quick this week. I want to get into this story because it is wild. So before we dive into the mess, let's okay, yeah. So before we dive into it, let's talk about what CXC even is. So CXC is going to be at the center really of this story. So the Caribbean Examinations Council, or CXC, oversees the major secondary school exams across the Caribbean. The CSEC, that's the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, and the CAPE, which is like the Caribbean's version of AP or A levels. So think of it like the SATs, but multiply it by like 23 countries. So the grades from these exams determine scholarships, university placement, and sometimes even job eligibility. These papers are treated like gold. They're printed under high security, shipped in sealed packages, and stored in fireproof cabinets with government supervision. So when someone breaches that system, it's not just a scandal, it's a betrayal. And in 2023, that betrayal started in Jamaica. So let's really pause to understand the Caribbean education system, because if you're like me and the majority of our listeners, we are in the U.S. But the way that the education system works in the Caribbean, so it might sound a little foreign. Because when I'm like, paper two or CSEC, you're probably like, what in the world? All of this doesn't make sense. So this is the structure. Caribbean countries, especially English-speaking ones like Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and Guyana, have school systems that follow the old British model. So primary school starts around age 5 and goes to about 11. Then students take an exam, usually the primary exit profile, which is what it's called in Jamaica, to move on to secondary school. Secondary school runs for 5 years from grade 7 through grade 11, ending when most students are about 16. That fifth year of secondary school is a big deal. It's when students sit in the regional exams run by the Caribbean Examinations Council, or CXC. So then you have the big exams. CXC manages two main exams across the region: CSEC, Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate. This is the one at the heart of our story. Students take multiple subjects: math, English, sciences, business, you name it, they take it. Each subject has two written papers. Paper 1 is multiple choice questions, and paper 2 is the long answer problem solving questions. Plus, some subjects include a school based assessment, kind of like a big project graded by teachers but moderated by CXC. Passing these exams is crucial. Like I said, they decide whether students qualify for a higher education, certain jobs, or even migration opportunities. Then there's CAPE, the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination. That's like the Caribbean version of AP classes or A levels in the UK. Students take CAPE in sixth form, which is an optional extra 2 years after CSEC, grades 12 and 13. CAPE scores often determine university scholarships and entry into competitive programs. Then we have regional unity and regional pressure. What's wild is that all these exams, CSEC and CAPE, are standardized across more than 20 Caribbean territories. That means a student in Jamaica, Barbados, or Grenada is taking the exact same test on the same day at the same time. So when a leak happens in one country, it literally affects everyone. That's why the 2023 leak in Jamaica caused such an uproar across the entire Caribbean. So, why is it so high stakes? These exams aren't just about grades, they're about mobility. For many Caribbean families, doing well on CXC exams is the key to getting into university, locally or abroad, qualifying for government jobs, earning scholarships to the UK, US, or Canada, or even being the first in their family to break cycles of poverty. So when an exam gets leaked, it's not just cheating, it's life changing consequences. It shakes trust in the very system people depend on to rise. And that's what makes this scandal hit so deep. This isn't just about stolen papers, it's about stolen futures. So, all right, now that we got our crash course in how the Caribbean system works, let's get back to how this one school in Jamaica managed to break a region's trust. So, it's May 2023. Students across the Caribbean are sweating over the CSEC Mathematics Paper 2, one of the hardest, most high stakes exams of the year. But before the exam even starts, whispers start spreading. Reports describe students sharing the paper over WhatsApp and Telegram. So imagine the chatter. And for those of you who don't know, WhatsApp and Telegram are social media platforms, social media messaging platforms that are encrypted. So, they can delete or whatever. There's always a way to find it, but they're apps that encrypt messages. So at first, people thought it was just a rumor. Exam season always comes with panic and gossip. But when multiple students in different countries started recognizing the same questions before they were even seated, it was over. Screenshots began circulating on social media, on Telegram, WhatsApp, even Facebook. By the time CXC found out, the paper had gone viral faster than a TikTok challenge. CXC's official statement, released May 19, 2023, confirmed what everyone feared. quote, the breach originated in Jamaica, end quote. The exam board said the leak compromised the paper's integrity, but instead of canceling the test outright, they made a controversial decision. They would not use the leaked paper for grading. Instead, they'd combine students' paper 1 scores and their SBA school-based assessment to calculate their math results. Their reasoning? To, quote, protect students' well-being, end quote, and avoid penalizing those who were innocent. But in trying to calm the storm, they lit another one. Teachers and parents were understandably furious. Students in other countries, especially Barbados, Trinidad, and Guyana, said it wasn't fair. How come Jamaica's leak affects our grades? How do you measure effort when the test changed midstream? It was chaos. And for a lot of students, it felt like their futures were suddenly up for debate. And that's when things got worse, y'all. Just 1 month later, June 2023, Jamaica made headlines again because thieves broke into a school in St. Catherine Parish where sealed exam materials were stored. And they didn't just steal a few files or peek at the answers. They went straight for the fireproof cabinets that held 9 subject exam papers. Now, I don't know who planned this, but breaking into a secure cabinet meant for government supervised tests, that's not teenage mischief. That's mission impossible, that's takes a lot of planning, a lot of skill. Like you have to be very skilled to be able to do that. According to police reports, the thieves entered the school after hours, broke into the administrative block, and rolled out the entire cabinet. A security guard noticed suspicious activity, but by the time help arrived, the papers were gone. Theft from the nation's most secure exam site. Within weeks of the CXC leak, I don't believe in coincidences that, close, that, that just seems too coincidental to be a coincidence. So, the Ministry of Education and CXC launched an emergency investigation. Meanwhile, thousands of students were still sitting for exams, not even knowing whether their papers were safe, valid, or replaced. CXC issued another statement assuring the public that all upcoming exams would continue as planned. But let's be real, confidence was shattered. If a, quote, fireproof cabinet couldn't protect the papers, literally what could? So I'm just, this is crazy. Some people steal gold, other people steal data. But who would think to not only try, but actually pull off stealing exam papers? Like we've heard in the US, like similar things happening, like people hacking in and changing grades and things like that. But I don't know of, not saying it hasn't happened, but I don't know of a case where this high level of theft with exams or tests has happened. Like I said, this took a lot of skill, in my opinion, to pull off. So let's get to the fallout and the reaction. So here's where things get even more layered. After the theft, schools went on high alert. The Jamaica Constabulary Force confirmed multiple suspects were being questioned, including insiders who may have had access to the exam room. CXC, meanwhile, sent additional monitors to oversee upcoming papers. Still, parents demanded answers. In Barbados, the Nation News ran headlines calling it, quote, a blow to the credibility of the nation of the region's education system, end quote. In Trinidad, one columnist said, quote, for students who already face pressure, this feels like betrayal from the top, end quote. And in Jamaica, many educators quietly admitted they were embarrassed. For a country known for its excellence in academics, producing global icons in sports, music, and education, being labeled the source of the regional scandal hurt. The principal and teacher from Steertown Academy, one of the schools linked to the early leak investigation, stepped down from their posts. CXC promised to strengthen security and consider digital encryption for future exams. But still, the question lingered. How deep does this go? Because one leak and one theft in the same year doesn't sound random. It sounds like a system cracking under pressure. So, the bigger picture, let's zoom out. Everywhere in the world, education is high stakes, but in the Caribbean, those stakes are personal. One good CXC score can change a whole family story. It can mean a scholarship abroad, like I said, a government job, a way out of poverty. So when systems make the test feel like life or death, people start bending the rules. And, that's not new. We've seen it in Kenya, where WhatsApp leaks of national exams led to hundreds of arrests. We've seen it in India, where students literally use Bluetooth devices hidden in their clothing. And even in the US, where wealthy parents bribed universities to admit their kids. Different continents, same desperation. Not saying it's right, but you could argue that it's human. And that's the fascinating part. The psychology, I say this all the time, the psychology behind these scams and scandals. It's like when survival and success blur together, integrity starts to feel optional, which it never is, but you never know what people can do when, like I said, they're in survival mode and they feel like they have no other options and their backs are literally against the wall. So, as a parent, it makes you think like, how do you protect your kids? How do you teach your kids to work hard, play fair, and earn it? But then stuff like this happens, right? Um, it's just crazy. So, so let's get into facts behind the fallout. So I had some questions about, what happened afterwards, where it stands now, things like that. So after the investigation into the exam leaked, the spotlight landed on Steertown Academy in Jamaica. According to the Gleaner, the school's principal, Sharn Mangle, and exam coordinator, Andre, I'm not even going to try to mispronounce his name, Yeeshui, were both removed from their posts after a disciplinary hearing. The school board found them guilty of participating in a scheme that leaked Caribbean Examinations Council papers to students during the May to June 2022 sitting. The board cited neglect of duty, including failure to secure the papers properly. Those same papers meant to be locked in the fireproof cabinet supplied by CXC. The educators were formally disciplined and asked to step down. So now here's what's confirmed. They did lose their positions and the disciplinary findings were made public. But what's not made clear, no credible source that I found confirmed whether they were ever criminally charged or tried in court. The available reports stop at the school board level. No legal findings or sentencings have ever been made public. So, whether those resignations came from guilt, embarrassment, or just the weight of public pressure, we don't officially know. And to me, that just adds another layer to the story because when the only visible consequence is a resignation, it leaves everyone else, especially the students, wondering whether justice was truly served or if the scandal just got quietly swept under the rug. So, y'all, after all that, the leaked exams, stolen cabinets, and a region trying to rebuild trust, you think that the education world might take a breather. But y'all, this story doesn't stop in the Caribbean because while Jamaica was fighting to protect the integrity of the CXC exams, thousands of miles away in West Africa, another crisis was unfolding. Different continent, different system, but the same pressure to perform, same cracks in the foundation. Nigeria, home to over 200 million people and one of the largest student populations in Africa. Here, education isn't just a dream, it's a lifeline. And like in the Caribbean, the final secondary exams can change everything. Who gets into university, who gets a scholarship, who breaks the cycle. But in 2025, the trust was tested when headlines announced something shocking. 38 schools caught cheating across 13 states. This wasn't a one-time scandal. It was a system-wide storm. And to understand just how deep it ran, we've got to look at how education in Nigeria actually works, what went wrong, and what both these scandals tell us about the global struggle for integrity in education. So let's cross the ocean. From the Caribbean to the continent, this is the story of Nigeria's exam crisis. But before we jump into what went down in Nigeria, let's get our bearings. So we figured out how Jamaica's and the Caribbean's education works. So let's do the same for Nigeria. Their schooling system follows what's called the 6-3-3-4 structure. 6 years of primary school, 3 years junior secondary, 3 years senior secondary, then 4 years of university. By the end of senior secondary, students sit the Senior School Certificate Examination, the SSCE, run by either NECO, NECO, National Examinations Council, or WAEC, West African Examinations Council. And y'all, these aren't pop quizzes. They decide your whole next step. University, polytechnic, government job, you name it. SSCE scores open or close those doors. So let's get context. Nigeria, big country, many states, a massive student population. And each year, thousands of students take the National Examinations Council NECO Senior School Certificate Examination, one of the major secondary school exit exams. When you sit for that exam, you're not just trying to get good grades. You're trying to open doors, university admission, career entry, scholarships, maybe change your family story. So yes, the stakes, like in the Caribbean, are very high. In 2025, NECO announced the results. Over 1.3 million candidates registered. Among them, NECO reported that 60.26% obtained 5 credits and above, including mathematics and English. Meanwhile, the council flagged 38 schools across 13 states for, quote, whole school cheating, end quote, during the exam. But wait, y'all, what does a whole school cheating even look like? Glad y'all asked, because I was wondering too. The official release of the 2025 SSCE results in September confirmed key performance metrics alongside the details of the unprecedented institutional breach that defines the scandal. So, the 2025 internal SSCE saw robust participation with 1,367,210 candidates initially registered for the examination. Ultimately, 1,358,339 candidates sat for the examination. The gender distribution was nearly balanced, comprising 685,514 males and 681,696 females. Performance statistics revealed that 818,492 candidates, constituting 60.26% of those who sat the examination, achieved the critical benchmark of 5 credits and above, including English language and mathematics. This pass rate is a prerequisite for admission into Nigerian tertiary institutions and has remained statistically consistent over the preceding 4 years. Furthermore, a total of 1,144,496 candidates, or 84.26%, obtained 5 credits and above, regardless of the inclusion of English and mathematics. NECO also upheld its commitment to inclusivity, accommodating 1,622 candidates with special needs, including those with hearing impairments, visual impairment, albinism, autism, and low vision. The most confounding data point in the 2025 results release relates to the statistics on malpractice. A professor reported a total of 3,878 cases of malpractice, which represents a significant 61.58% reduction compared to the 10,094 cases recorded in 2024. On the surface, this numerical decrease suggests that countermeasures deployed against general misconduct, such as students using phones or copying, were highly effective. However, this statistical success obscures a fundamental failure in governance. The low volume of detected cases against individual students stacked in stark contradiction to the qualitative severity of the organized fraud detected. The scandal's gravity lies in the confirmed, widespread, sophisticated corruption involving gatekeepers, thereby shifting the focus from individual student deviance, to systemic institutional compromise. So, here's what the scandal was. The defining element of the 2025 NECO scandal is whole school or mass cheating. This nomenclature indicates organized collusion that extends beyond students and implicates administrative personnel, potentially including school proprietors, principals, or complicit external tutorial operators. The scale of this institutional breach was significant. Like I said, 38 schools across 13 states were originally flagged for mass cheating. The council pledged to summon these schools for discussion before applying appropriate sanctions. This widespread geographical incidence demonstrates that organized corruption is not restricted to specific isolated centers, but is a national challenge. This further evidenced by the sanctions levied against 9 supervisors recommended for blacklisting. These supervisors were implicated in severe offenses, including aiding and abetting malpractice, poor supervision, lateness, unruly behavior, assault, and insubordination. The supervisors recommended for blacklisting were drawn from 5 states or territories, 3 in Rivers State, 1 in Niger State, 3 in the Federal Capital Territory, 1 in Kano State, and 1 in Osun State. The involvement of personnel in the FTC and Kano is particularly notable given Kano's status as the top performing state overall in the 2025 SSCE. This raises critical questions regarding whether some high-performing results might be partially inflated by localized institutional cheating rather than organic academic achievement. So, just to go over what I just said, there were 38 schools involved from 13 states, and the offense was whole school organized fraud. Then we have 19 blacklisted advisors from those regions that I just said, and their offense were aiding and abetting, poor supervision, and insubordination. Then we have 8 schools affected by communal clash, and they were located in Lamborghini, LGA, and Amwanga State, and their offense was logistical civil security disruption. So, let's be real. This NECO mess wasn't just about students cheating. It cracked open some deep flaws in how Nigeria's whole education machine runs. The scandal showed what happens when communication breaks down, logistics fall apart, and politics tries to paper over the truth. So, we also have to look at the governance communication gap. So here's where things started crumbling. A communication disaster between NECO and the Federal Ministry of Education, the very agency that's supposed to be keeping them accountable. During the 2025 exam window from early to late July, the ministry's director of press, Boriolo, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing these names, Fosali, publicly told Nigerians to ignore the rumors. Her exact statement on July 20th, 2025 was that the, quote, ongoing NECO examinations are progressing smoothly, end quote, and that, quote, no cases of examination malpractice have been reported, end quote. But y'all, 2 months later, NECO's registrar came out and said, actually, that was exactly the exact same period where 38 schools were caught cheating and 599 students in Adamawa State couldn't even finish their exams because of violence. Violence, you guys. So what happened in that 2-month gap? Either NECO failed to report the truth in real time, or the ministry knew and decided to keep things quiet. Either way, y'all, it's a mess. It's a whole mess. And if it's a similar pattern, when the system's on fire, leadership goes into nothing to see here mode. Like they try to cover it up, they try to sweep it under the rug, they try to save face. They protect the institution first and the students second. The ministry's silence wasn't just a PR move, it was a signal that optics mattered more than accountability. So let's get into the place that got hit hard. Lamordi local government area in Adamawa State. So between July 7th and 25th, communal clashes erupted right in the middle of exam season. 8 schools couldn't complete their SSCE sittings, and the chaos affected 599 students, 13 subjects, and 29 separate papers. NECO had to withhold the results entirely and beg the state government to organize a reset. They even asked universities and JAMB, that's the College Entrance Exam Board, to delay their admission cycles until these results were ready. Can you imagine being 17, sitting for the biggest test of your life and losing your shot because the government can't keep your region stable? That's not just a cheating scandal, that's structural fragility. So let's expand on what exam integrity even means. It's not just about stopping leaks and cheats. It's about guaranteeing that students in conflict zones can take their exams safely and fairly. Nigeria desperately needs an emergency re-examination protocol, something federally funded and ready to roll whenever conflict or disaster interrupts a test. So this wasn't even the only thing that happened. There's a broader 2025 national exam crisis. Truth is, NECO scandal was only one piece of a much larger educational breakdown that year. 2025 wasn't just one bad exam cycle. It was a national education crisis that hit 3 major testing bodies at once. This one, the NECO, mass cheating and administrative denial. Then there's JAMB, high-tech fraud using biometrics and AI. And then WAEC, infrastructure collapse so bad some kids took exams by lantern light. So let's unpack these really quick. So JAM runs the this word gets me every time. United Territory Matriculation Exam, the test you need to get into college. In 2025, they discovered over 6,000 cases of malpractice. But this wasn't just paper and pencil cheating. It was sci-fi level fraud. 4,251 cases of finger blending where scammers manipulated biometric scans to bypass ID systems. 190 cases of AI-assisted impersonation. Yes, AI helped people fake who they are. And then 1,878 false claims of albinism to extend test time in private rooms. It was an entire shadow industry. CBT, computer-based testing centers, tutors, and even parents in on the game. When everything blew up, a Nigerian lawmaker called it, quote, a catastrophic institutional failure, end quote, and one lawyer even threatened to sue JAMB. The middle class freaked out because suddenly the system they trusted was exposed as compromised. So then came WAEC, which handles the West African Senior School Certificate exam. And y'all, this part will make you mad. Students in Benue State reported starting their English language paper as late as 9:42 p.m. Some didn't finish until nearly midnight, writing under lanterns and phone flashlights because of nationwide power outages. In other centers, 9 a.m. exams didn't start until noon. Imagine sitting in a dark classroom, sweating, hungry, trying to focus while your future literally flickers in and out with the power. That's not just inconvenience, that's institutional cruelty. It proved that the corruption isn't the only thing killing exam integrity. Administrative incompetence and infrastructure neglect are just as destructive. So, by the end of 2025, Nigeria's education system had failed on 3 fronts. The NECO, SSCE, JAM, UTME, and WAEC, these 3 exams, all failed. Together, they showed a trifecta of failure: corruption, technology misuse, and logistical breakdown. And each one fed the other. When one body's credibility drops, the pressure shifts to the next, creating a domino effect of distrust. So let's get into policy critique. In the aftermath, Nigeria's federal government came out swinging: zero tolerance, heavy punishments, the whole 9 yards. Minister of Education Dr. Olatunji Alaswa promised full prosecution for offenders under the Examination Malpractice Act of 1999 and a strict 3-year ban for anyone caught cheating. Schools and CBT centers found guilty will be permanently reorganized across all exam boards. It sounded tough, and on paper, it's the right move. But here's the irony. While the government rolled out sophisticated tracking systems and biometric bans, students were still taking exams by candlelight. Nigeria's 2025 education budget jumped 96.6% from the previous year to 3.52 trillion, and yet electricity failed, centers flooded, and basic logistics collapsed. So where's the money going? Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar called it a, quote, national disgrace. He said, quote, the government seems more focused on punishing students for malpractice than on providing the basic conditions for fair examination conduct, end quote. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. It's hard to talk about fairness when the system itself is setting kids up to fail. So the road to reform. If Nigeria's education system is going to recover, the fix has to be threefold. Technology, move all exams to computer-based testing for both objective and essay sections by 2026. Upgrade biometrics with multimodal authentication, fingerprint and iris scan, and AI that flags suspicious behavior in real time. 2, accountability with consequences. Blacklisting isn't enough. Those 38 schools and 9 supervisors need visible prosecutions, not quiet transfers. And the independent governance audit should track how communication failed between NECO and the ministry. And then lastly, fairness with foundations. Reform in curriculum so not every child's future hinges on one exam. That's way too much pressure. Add ethics and civic studies back into classrooms to rebuild a culture of honesty, and establish that emergency re-examination protocol for conflict zones like Adamanwa so no child loses their future because the system froze when they needed it most. So let's look at both of these scandals because it's essentially the same story. A refresher of Jamaica. Math Paper 2 leak traced to Jamaica, fireproof cabinet stolen, 9 papers gone, regional grading overhaul to protect students. Principal Kurt Ware told the Gleaner, quote, they're afraid that CSCC will apply stiff measures and many of them might not pass, end quote. Then in Nigeria, 38 schools, 13 states, collusion, leaks, impersonation, supervisors blacklisted, investigations ongoing, exposed deep governance and logistical failures. And both of these matter because in Jamaica, a single leak shook a region, and in Nigeria, a network of failures shook a nation. Different scale, same consequences, broken trust. When students stop believing the system is fair, education stops being empowerment and starts feeling like survival.
System, or spill if you think the educators and officials
the real test isn't just what students can memorize, it's what the system can guarantee. Integrity, transparency,
because while
fairness.
Individuals made bad choices,
when you lose
the
those,
system set
you don't
them
just
up to
fail an
believe
exam.
there was no other way to
you
win.
fail a generation.
Or you can argue that the system made them believe that. And if education is supposed to empower, it shouldn't feel like a game you have to cheat to survive. Like, for this one exam to hold so much weight on your future, for it to matter if you get a scholarship, if you get certain jobs, if you are able to come out of poverty, some people will literally feel like they're against the wall, and I can see how that would drive them to steal the papers. You can kind of say it's maybe their thinking was they're trying to level the playing field. I'm not really sure. But again, it's never been made public who it was that I found who it was that stole the papers. We don't know if it's students. We don't know if it's teachers. Parents. I didn't find that in any sources. But I feel like even though this could be likened to the SAT and ACTs, I feel like this is a heavier weight. Than it is for the SAT and ACTs, because I think there might be more options if you don't get necessarily good scores, but it seems like this is the end all be all, and that is a lot of pressure to put on these really young kids to be, like I said, the potential to bring their whole entire family out of poverty. So, yeah. Integrity is fragile, and once it's gone, it takes more than policy to stitch it back together. But I do want to say to every student who showed up and gave it their all, even when the system failed you, you definitely deserve better. Okay, so, like I said, this is a short one, but that's okay. So, before we wrap up, it is time for one of my favorite moments. This is the part where I read out, this is one where I shout you out for showing some love to BC3. So this week's review comes from Roxy LM72, who wrote, "Love it. I was introduced to your podcast from a coworker, and I must say I have been hooked since day one. Love it. Keep up the great work." Roxy, thank you so much. That literally means everything. Also, shout out to your coworker for sharing it with you. Like, the fact that y'all are out here sharing this at work, like, what that is, I don't know, that just gives me a level of, mama, I made it, right? Like, y'all are recommending me at work. Like, I hear this happen with the bigger podcasts that I listen to that, kind of got me into it. So the fact that you said that for mine, so shout out to Roxy and her coworker. Y'all are both dope. So yeah, I appreciate the energy. So if you want to hear your name and review on the show, head to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a review and let me know what you think. I see them all. I respond to all the comments on Spotify, and everyone fuels my next cup. So yeah. That's it. We're wrapping it up. Thank you for listening to the series finale, Scandal in the Schools, on Black Coffee, Crime, and Crochet. November, we will start a brand new series. I'm still putting together which one we're going to do, but it's always, as always, going to be great.
If you enjoyed this episode, like I said, please leave a review, share it with your besties, share it with your coworkers, share it with your family, your friends, share it out because it helps other people find me. If you want to join BC3 Crew on Patreon for early access and bonus coffee break minis, please do that. One of the tiers does have ad-free listening. So this season I have figured out how to monetize. So there are ads. I'm still working on how to place them properly, make sure there aren't too many just to help me out because me and my husband do this, by ourselves. So if you want to help support and you don't like the ads, there is an ad-free option on Patreon. And I will start rolling out bonus episodes. Like the coffee breaks will probably be like 5-minute current news things or cases that I didn't have enough content for full episodes. And then the ad-free one will have a whole full bonus episode that's a full length episode. So that's how I am building out Patreon. We are still getting it there. But the lowest tier, I think, is $3 a month. I think the highest one that is ad-free, I think is $8 or $12. One of the two, I don't remember. But it's on Patreon. It's linked in the show notes. So, yeah. Until next time, stay curious, stay caffeinated, and stay real. Bye!
Disclaimer. Great effort is made to ensure that all materials used in Black Coffee Crime and Crochet adhere to fair use guidelines. No copyright infringement is intended. If you are the copyright owner or represent the owner of any material used in this content and have concerns about its use, please contact me and I will promptly address the issue.